This meeting will now come to order. Good evening. The City Council will convene on Thursday, March 11th, 2021, to hold a regular meeting at 7:30 p.m. for the purpose of discussing any and all business via in-person participation for the City Council only and remote participation for all others in accordance with Chapter 40A of the Massachusetts General Laws and Governor Baker's Emergency Order dated March 12th, 2020. In accordance with the Governor's order suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 15th, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the City Council will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. Alternative public access to this meeting shall be provided in the following manner. Number one, this meeting is being televised live by the Peabody Access Television on Comcast Cable Channel 9 and RCN Channels 15. Number two, real-time public comment during public hearings can be addressed to the Peabody City Council using the Zoom meeting software for remote access. Users may view the meeting and make a comment or a question to the chair via the audio option. This meeting is being taped by the Peabody Access Television and is also being recorded by our City Council stenographer. Let's all rise for a moment of silence. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, liberty, and justice for all.
Move approval of the record, Mr. President.
You've heard the motion by Councillor Gould. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councillors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton. Yes. Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Matsoulis.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. Before we begin our hearings this evening, we are first going to hear from our City Solicitor, Donald Kahn. Councilor Melville had recently made a motion requesting that our solicitor provide a brief summary of recently enacted legislation that impacts zoning regulations, including changes to the approval of special permits. City Solicitor Donald Kahn, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Folks, I wanted to speak briefly tonight on the amendments that have been made to Chapter 40A, which is the statute that regulates local zoning in Massachusetts. In January, the legislature passed a bill that was called the Housing Choice Initiative. And that bill made four categories of changes to Chapter 40A that I think you should be aware of, and that may require that we take steps to make some amendments to our zoning ordinances. The first thing that the statute did was it amended Section 5 of Chapter 40A, and it amended it to provide that certain types of zoning amendments would now not be subject to a supermajority vote of the City Council, but would be subject to only a majority vote. And the issues that would now be open for a majority vote to amend your zoning ordinances would be ordinances relating to multifamily districts, ordinances relating to mixed-use developments, and accessory dwellings. It would also apply to creating ordinances relative to special permits for multifamily, mixed use, or ordinances which increase density. In addition, it would apply to a city or town who adopted an ordinance to create transferable development rights, which would be one property owner actually selling development rights to another property owner. And it would also apply to smart growth districts. So if a community wanted to establish a smart growth district, instead of the traditional 8 votes that were required under the statute to change the zoning, now you would only be required to get a majority of the council. The second thing that the statute did is it amended Chapter 40A, Section 9, and that is the statute, the section that regulates special permits. And it reduced the requirement that special permits be approved by a supermajority to a straight majority, again, for certain issues. And the issues that were involved would be multifamily development near a transit hub, mixed-use development near a commercial center, or special permits where there was a request to reduce or vary the parking limitations. So all of those issues could now be enacted by a city council with a majority vote rather than a supermajority vote. The statute also requires communities that are serviced by the MBTA to create a multi-family by right zoning district within a half a mile of a transportation hub, like a train station or a bus station or a subway station or things of that nature. And as it relates to that, if a city or town does not create such a district within a certain amount of time, there are actually sanctions where we would have state monies that we would not be able to avail ourselves of. And the final thing that this statute did that was significant is it changed Section 17 of the statute, which relates to appeals. And what it required now is that if a person appeals from the grant of a variance or a special permit, they may be required to post a bond of up to $50,000 by the court. And this seems to be designed to discourage litigation and appeals of zoning projects. So that's a very brief outline of this statute. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions from any members of the council.
Thank you, Mr. Cronin, and you hit it all on the head of the nail, if you will, giving us a great summary, brief overview. Let people know on the council of these changes that were enacted, I believe, in January of this year, but also let members of the public, and there's more to come. Any comments or questions from any councilors right now? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Attorney Khan. Don, with reference to the MBTA communities, we are an MBTA community, I know that, but where would our transportation hub be?
Well, it's not specified in the statute, and I haven't had an opportunity to go to the guidance or proposed regulations that they're going to pass, Councilor Turco, so I can't really answer that question as we sit here today. The statute talks about bus stations, subway stations, train stations, things like that. It doesn't specify anything other than that. So I'm going to have to dig a little deeper to find out where we would create such a zone if we're required to.
Thank you. And with reference to that, I did watch the MMA seminar about a week ago, and they did a brief overview, and I believe there's the intention of delaying that part of the enforcement of that part of the bill due to the fact that it's not clearly defined. So hopefully it's not something that we need to address very quickly. And also, Don, you and I spoke briefly today, and I mentioned the fact that other cities and towns have actually put a moratorium on large housing developments within their cities and towns, and you had mentioned that we could only do that if we had just reason with reference to city infrastructure and things like that. And I think the town we spoke of was Saugus, where I think they did do a 2-year moratorium because their sewage system couldn't maintain the amount of residences. And with that said, my concern now is that, if you do rough math, we have anywhere from 800 to 1,000 units that are pretty much on the table at any point in this city for the upcoming year. And I don't know, because we haven't had the discussion with DPS, whether the city can handle that amount of development and continue to develop in the meantime. So I think it's something this council should probably take up this year as to whether we need to put the brakes on some of this. And I know some of it was beyond us, 40Bs. I think we're on our fourth or fifth one. But once we are at the 10% cap, which we should be very shortly, after Farm Ave is approved, then I think we as a council need to take some steps to kind of put the brakes on what's happening in this city, because I think we've met our obligations and we continue to do that, but we're going a little bit far with the development. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Attorney Khan. Just to add to Councilor Turco's comment about the MBTA communities, they did allude to in that MMA webinar that they were going to postpone it. They've actually put that in writing now. So there's a communication out there from DHCD, preliminary guidance from MBTA communities regarding compliance with Section 3A of Chapter 40A. And the closing statement of that is, all MBTA communities will be deemed to be in compliance with Section 3A until more specific guidance is developed and made available to all affected MBTA communities. So that is essentially on hold at this point. And it just, obviously it needs some further scrutiny from within the city, but I have seen some third-party reviews of the various communities across the Commonwealth that indicate which municipalities are in compliance already and which ones are not. And Peabody was on the list of those that are in compliance already because of our by right multifamily zoning districts that exist today. So at least that third-party information it would indicate that we wouldn't need to do anything, but obviously that would require some additional scrutiny to know for sure. I guess the only thing, Attorney Khan, I wanted to direct to you is as either a special permit or a request to change zoning came to the council, how are we going to know definitively which voting standard applies? Do we need to request that from you on a case-by-case basis? Because I don't know that that's 100% clear from the statute. Do we just default to that from the statute, or do we need to seek clarification on that on a case-by-case basis? And just to add to that, there is, although it may seem like it's black and white, I don't think it is black and white, because there's this term in there called eligible location, and the statute doesn't define exactly how an eligible location is determined. It gives some information on that, but it also leaves some subjectivity to it. So is that something that you would envision we would need to go to you on a case-by-case basis?
Yeah, I think in the near term, until this is sorted out a little bit more, I think we should scrutinize things on a case-by-case basis, at least during the initial time that these statutes, are in effect.
Thank you, Attorney Khan. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Charest?
Thank you, Council President. To Don Khan, Attorney Khan, thank you for being in front of us. Do you know of any municipalities that's challenging this change to date?
Well, it was only enacted in January. I think the governor signed the bill on January 14th. So I'm not aware of any legal challenges to it as we sit here tonight, no.
Yes, as Councilor McGinn alluded to, it seems to be very unclear in which developments will fall into this and what's the order of the council. And it makes me very nervous. that would be pushed upon with certain subjects, developments. We have a lot on our plate, never mind the 40Bs and the other parcels, including the overlay, business overlay that we have on Route 1 and in my district around the mall. So there's a lot. If everything comes to fruit at the same time, there is no way our infrastructure could support it. We've never really had a discussion yet, which I think is overdue with the school committee to find out their thoughts on if everything comes to fruit at the same time, as how the schools will be able to handle any influx of children. So I'll be really waiting for case by case coming to us, and I have a feeling we'll be seeing you more often when these matters come. So thank you for making yourself available to us.
Not a problem.
Thank you, Councilor Shrest. Any other councilors want to? Councilor Mitsoulas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is something I really wasn't prepared to talk about this evening because I didn't really know what you were going to say, Councilor Khan. But what I heard you say was kind of a warning to us of what's to come. And I've been fighting these issues for 40 years now. There was a time when I understood the zoning in this city. I no longer understand it, and it's because of all the changes that have come in the past, we'll say 30 years. I knew there was a time when you wanted to do a zoning change, it took the entire block to make that change. Now you could take one particular parcel and change it. To me, that's spot zoning, and it's legal, and we do it on whenever we get an opportunity. We have something like that going on right now at the mills, and that was not what I wanted to bring up this evening. But how do you take one floor and rezone it? How do you do that without calling it spot zoning? But that's not what I want to get into, because when that issue comes before us, I have a lot to say, and I'll make a lot of sense. And the reason that I'm speaking right now is kind of a warning to all us councilors. I know my ward. I know the potential that can happen to my ward, okay? I knew it 40 years ago when we fought the issue of the Stop and Shop, where if we allowed a zoning change at the Stop and Shop, the zoning change would have went from where the Stop and Shop is all the way to Wallace Street. That would have all been changed to housing. And you know what you could have put back then 40 years ago? You could have put 8,000 homes, apartments, condos. You could have gone so high. My reason for saying this right now is we have got to sit down as a council and put the brakes on, as John just said, Councilor Turco just said, we've got to put the brakes on, okay? And we have got to decide, what do we want the city of Peabody to look like? And we've got to stick to our guns, because if we don't, they're going to take this city piecemeal and make it what they want to make it. And I'm talking about developers or whoever the money people are behind whoever is looking to do these projects. Let me tell you what I don't think Beverly ever expected. I don't think Beverly ever expected to look like New York City. Go down Rantoul Street, look at these 7-story buildings. Is that what we want Peabody to look like? I don't think so. Do we want Peabody to look like Salem? I love these two cities, and I love the people that come from these two cities, and this is not a put down to them, okay? What do we want Peabody to look like? Salem, where people in Salem can't even afford to live there anymore, and they're coming to Peabody? And the same thing over in Beverly. They can't afford those rents out there. Where are they going? They're coming to Peabody, okay? And we still have, I'll say, a city I'm very proud of, and I still want to live here. And as long as I'm the councilor here, I'm going to do my best to make sure that this city, my ward, only changes the way the people in Ward 3 want it to change. You know, now with these new laws coming into the city, our hands are tied, you know, and we've got to send a message. And where's all this coming from? The governor? I mean, I know that we need housing. The whole country needs housing. You know, it's, and that's one of the reasons all this is created. And why do we need housing in this country? I can go deeper and deeper and deeper and give you my feeling on that. But, you know, I'm only a Ward 3 councilor. And, you know, I can only do what I can do to take care of my neighborhood. And I'll tell you right now, I'm not welcoming what I see coming down the line. I don't like it. And I hope as a council, we can stand strong and bring the more powerful people in here that will go along with our thinking and maintain the civility we have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Mitsoulas. Councilor Melville.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Through you to Attorney Khan. Don, one of the major concerns I had with regards to some of this is, it's been brought up before, is how do you classify what the rules are for the hearing? So just based on what I've seen and read on this, that the initial litigation will be on developers stating that they should be not subject to a supermajority, but to the majority of the select board or the council, whoever is the governing body. Where in our process would we be able to make sure that everybody was on the same page on that?
Well, the thing is that the terminology in the statute doesn't really mesh with the terminology that we have in our zoning.
Yeah.
They have terms that are in this statute that we don't have. I think the way to handle this would be to make a threshold determination before hearings start as to whether a supermajority or a majority is required. I think that's where in the process you would want to make that determination. You wouldn't want to make it after it started, and you certainly wouldn't want to make it shortly before a vote was taken.
Yeah, because I know that it's not, by the time the council would hear a zoning change, this planning board, there's a number of other boards that could be involved. To me, with the most likely form of confusion on this is, you know, does everybody know what the rules that we're all playing by? To get an approval or to get a denial, and what does that entail? And I mean, I just can see through appeals, a judge sending something back to a board or a committee or a council, identifying what you know, that's identifying what the actual threshold for an approval would be. So I think for as a council, that's something among other things that got brought up, but the technical stuff, this is something we should really be concerned with, because that's where I think we're going to get hung up personally. And I think it's obviously within it's to the advantage of the council, the select board, I'm talking throughout the state, to say this would require a supermajority. It's not to the advantage of the applicant. So that is where this is probably going to be litigated, in my opinion, and also based on the folks I spoke to as well. So, Don, I really appreciate you coming down, talking to everybody tonight. This was my motion, and I appreciate everybody's time on this. I think it's very important. Thank you.
It's not a problem. Can I make just one other point before I leave? The complexity here for us is just going to be in this, I think, primarily going to be in the special permit granting area. And one thing we might want to try to do is to clarify our ordinance as it relates to this statute and maybe spell it out in our ordinance what the criteria are for a simple majority as opposed to a supermajority. And maybe that will alleviate the confusion.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Attorney Councilor Sasslaw had a question or wanted to speak?
Sure.
Thank you, Council President. Attorney Counsel, following up on what you just said, do we have to make a determination? You just mentioned special permit process, which I agree, but do we also have to make a determination on zoning changes as well, whether that's a supermajority or a simple majority? Would it be both?
Yeah, it would, but the process is different in a zoning change. It's a slower, more deliberate process. So I think that would not present as many problems as the special permit aspect of this.
Thank you, and through you, Council President, if I could go through you to Council Melville. Obviously, you've done some work and you've done your homework. You brought this before, and I think we have to be proactive. And I'm just curious, was your thoughts that to maybe put this into Legal Affairs Committee to vet it a little bit, or I'm just curious how, rather than just nothing happening, to move it forward, because it's critical.
Yeah, through you, Mr. President. Yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing after the presentation. I had talked to Don offline about possibly, and he had indicated much of what he said tonight to me, that this would be important. I have a motion later that's going to request the city solicitor and the building inspector, along with the community development, identify those locations that we need to make sure we update, that they conform with the state statute, so that we can at least identify where those issues could be, and then we can discuss how we want to make those changes as a council.
Thank you, Council Melville. I'm certainly on the same page with you, and think that time is of the essence, so that we can get ahead of it and not have it back up. So thank you, and thank you, Attorney Khan. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw and Councilor Melville. Any other councils? Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Since it was brought up, the only other thing I wanted to mention, and Councilor McGinn may have better information about this, but in that same webinar that I mentioned earlier through MMA, they suggested that not only applicants place in their applications to councils and boards what threshold they feel this should fall under, whether it be a majority or supermajority, and they also suggested that councils state in their decisions what threshold they were using to make that decision. So again, we could probably discuss that after Councilor Melville's motion to go into legal affairs, but just something I wanted you to keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Any other councilors? Well, thank you, Attorney Khan, for coming tonight, and I know you said you'd be preparing some sort of, brief overview so folks can have it in writing and review it, and that would be great. And once again, thank you to Councilor Melville for making this motion, as, certainly he's aware the game has changed, and we've got to make sure we're prepped for it to make sure we're fully aware of the rules, so we, A, make the right decisions, and also can avoid making poor decisions. So thank you.
Okay, thank you, folks.
At this time, we'll now move to the next...
Mr. President, if I may.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. Sorry to interrupt. Mr. President, I'm wondering if we could suspend the rules and bring up item 7A, since we have school committee member Hockman here, who is the chair of the No Child Goes Hungry program.
I guess we can, Council. We got a lot of hearings. They've been waiting, but at this time, sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sorry to disrupt things, but the mayor has sent a communication, 7A, and the gist of it is that he along with the Council on Aging, has declared three vans of surplus property and 2 of the vans have been designated for other city departments, and he is requesting that we vote to donate 1 of the 3 vans to No Child Goes Hungry program in Peabody. As you know, the program provides groceries to approximately 700 students a week, as well as some 325 weekend food backpacks to kids and families. Especially during the pandemic, this food has been a lifeline to many children who experience food insecurity, which is probably the most critical thing for a student to learn correctly, is to have a healthy meal, balanced nutrition. The van will strengthen the No Child Goes Hungry program in Peabody and food delivery efforts. And I'd like to streamline it if we could, Mr. President, receive this and vote on it tonight as opposed to waiting any further. Mr. Hockman could use this van desperately to do his thing, which is taking care of Peabody's students that are hungry every day. Give back to you or open to discussion if there's any councilors who would like to speak on this.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. I think I wasn't prepared. I know we have the document in our package. It was my understanding that the mayor had specifically requested that we, set up a hearing and that purchasing agent Dan Doucette and the mayor would speak, and certainly Mr. Hockman would talk about this. So I thought it was my impression that we would submit this to Legal Affairs Committee, but I'll certainly, does anyone have any comments or questions? Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And if I could just go back a little bit in time to Tom, Councilor Gould is being very modest in his role in this, and I just wanted to bring everybody back to a Human Services meeting that we had last year, where we had Committeeman Jared Hockman, the director of the No Child Goes Hungry in Peabody program, had presented to us, and one of the issues
on TV you come in. Is that what you're thinking? Oh.
Jack Keilty, can you mute, please? Thank you. At that meeting, a need for a van was articulated and expressed for this program. As Councilor Gould has pointed out, the food insecurity has risen so much during this pandemic, and No Child Goes Hungry in Peabody has just been quietly, routinely packing bags and lunches and delivering them for the last year, and a need for a van in order to help them do this was highlighted at that meeting. And kind of quietly, Tom and I, Councilor Gould and I, were trying to think of ways to come up with a van. And Councilor Gould had worked with Mayor Betancourt with the idea of having a surplus van donated from the Council on Aging to this program for that purpose. So, and he quietly did it. He didn't even mention it here this evening, so I certainly want to give him accolades for that, and also to Mayor Betancourt for working in concert with Councilor Gould and No Child Goes Hungry in Peabody nonprofit organization in order to assist them with the tools that they need, in this case a van, in order to continue to do the great work that they do. I also want to thank another unsung hero in all of this is Peabody Municipal Light Plant Commissioner Bill Aylward. In our quest to try and secure a van, I reached out to PMLP, and very quickly Commissioner Aylward went to the rest of the commissioners and came up with a $3,500 donation very quickly to put towards this effort. So there's been a lot of work that's been done quietly, very positive, really feel-good thing that's happening here to have this van donated. And I would concur with Councilor Gould that we could take care of this evening, given the fact that, yes, you are correct that you note in City Council President that you note that the mayor mentioned that the purchasing agent, Dan Doucette, and I will be available with any questions you may have. And I really don't think, I don't have any questions. The mayor's recommending this. It's been declared surplus. The mayor is a lawyer, and he has already obviously spoken with purchasing agent Dan Doucette, and I think that the matter is really a no-brainer. So I don't think it needs to be referred to legal affairs. I think it's a great thing that's been done, and I think that we should move forward this evening. And hopefully this pandemic is wrapping up, and this great gesture of a municipal and nonprofit partnership is a great way to maybe round the corner on this pandemic and all the awful things that we've all been experiencing. And this is a really feel-good thing, and I think that we should move forward, and I would concur with Councilor Gould that we could take care of this evening, and I fully support following the mayor's recommendation to have the council authorize that third van, which has been declared surplus, be donated to No Child Goes Hungry in Peabody. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Just a point of order. The letter that the mayor sent to us did talk, of course, about this wonderful organization, which is doing tremendous work and has been for a number of years. Just to clarify, the last paragraph stated, please schedule, from the mayor, please schedule a committee hearing at your earliest convenience to consider my request. Purchasing agent Dan Doucette and I will be available to answer any questions that you may have. Jared Hockman from No Child Goes Hungry in Peabody will also be available for the hearing. I just wanted to clarify that. Thank you. Councilor Gould, you had a question or comment?
Yes, Mr. President. I'm very conscious of being respectful to you. You and I discussed moving forward on this, and you did say that you thought it should go into committee. I just wanted to see if we could move it tonight. I don't mean it in any disrespectful way, Mr. President. I know that there are rules, but there's also the gut feeling that with all of these good things going on, that we could make it happen tonight. But respectfully, I want to apologize if I didn't give you due warning that I was going to bring this up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Right now, I think I saw Councilor Turco wanted to speak on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to defer to Councilor Melville because I don't think you saw him with his hand up for a little bit, so if I can give him first dibs.
I apologize. Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm in favor of this. I think it's a great program, doing a lot of good things. If anybody has any questions, we can have a legal affairs subcommittee meeting. Otherwise, we can request that the mayor and Dan and Jared come back at another meeting 2 weeks from now. I'd try to have it as soon as possible. I don't have any questions. I'm supportive of the project, so, if anybody else does, we can, definitely do that. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Councilor Turco.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I certainly don't mean to be the skunk at the party, and I want to say thank you to Jared Hockman for all he's done. He's put a lot of time and effort into this program, and I know most of the residents in Peabody have. And in general, I agree. This will pass 11-0, and it's not going to be an issue in the long term. But I read the letter from the mayor where he has requested that the purchasing agent and he come speak before us. And I get that the mayor wants to be there because it's a feel-good situation, and but I don't know why he's asked the purchasing agent to be here, and I don't know if there's any issues that we need to be aware of before we just give away city property. So with that being said, I also have concerns about the precedent of doing this without a hearing. We know Jared Hockman, we know School Committee Member Hockman, we know this program very, very well, but this may arise in the future where the mayor or somebody else wants to give away city property, and we've set the precedent to not even discuss the logistics of that. So I just assume wait 2 weeks and send this to committee, discuss it. It may be all for naught. And if that's the case, I apologize to School Committee Member Hockman. But I'd just be curious, if the mayor or Dan Doucette were here right now, I'd be more comfortable with this. Since neither one of them are here to address why they needed to speak to us, I'd just rather hold off. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Melville.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I think that's fine with Councilor Turco. We can definitely schedule that, and, you know, I think it's a feel-good. I would agree with Councilor Turco that it would be probably 11-0. I have no problem. We can do that at the next meeting if that's the will of the council.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Mr. Hockman. I've seen the program firsthand. I know the impact that it makes in the city, and I agree with the sentiment of Councilor Turco that this is going to be supported universally. My question is just, I know sometimes with charitable boards, you have to vote to receive an asset or, you know, capital, whether it be a vehicle or property or whatever. Could you just maybe speak to the council about the board, on your end, the board's approval of this donation, just to make sure we kind of dot all of our i's and cross our t's before moving forward with this? Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Thank you to the entire City Council for considering this donation. It is a dramatic. It will have a dramatic effect on our ability to serve students within the city of Peabody who suffer from food insecurity. Councilor Welton, I can tell you that at our last Board of Directors meeting, we did bring up the possibility of this donation coming. We weren't sure whether it would come together and actually occur. We do have a board meeting scheduled for later this month. And if this donation does come to fruition with a vote of the council, I can assure you that the Board of Directors from No Child Goes Hungry in Peabody, Inc. will accept the donation.
Great, thank you, Mr. Hockman. Again, just sort of a point of clarification for my edification, but thank you for going through that.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Any other councils at this time? And I just wanted to, if people could bear with me, I wanted to just make a comment. I certainly support the organization. I said that earlier. This is not about any particular organization, individuals, or people. It's about the process. That's what I was just trying to get through. So I just want to make sure I clarify that. Is there any motion on the floor at this time? Would anyone like to make a motion at this point in time? I'll entertain a motion to refer this matter to legal affairs. Councilor Turco?
So moved, Mr. President.
You've heard the motion from Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Councilor Gould, did you have your hand raised?
No, I didn't. Thank you.
Sorry. You've heard the motion from Councilor Turco. On the motion, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman, for attending. I apologize, but we appreciate your understanding with this matter. Thank you.
No, Mr. President, thank you very much. You and I and several councils have talked about process in government before, and I fully respect that and appreciate it. And thank you. We'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Hockman. At this time, we'll move on to public hearings. Hearing 4A, the application from Victor C. Vo, doing business as Elysian Nail Bar, 65 Floyd Street, Everett, Mass. The clerk will please read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 11th, 2021, at 7:30 p.m. and conduct said public hearing in person, City Council only, in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom for all other public participation on the application from Victor C. Vo, DBA Elysian Nail Bar, 65 Floyd Street, Everett, Mass., for a special permit seeking to operate a personal service establishment, specifically a nail salon, at 2 First Ave, Unit 122, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage, or contact the City Clerk's office. Zoom information will not be available until the Friday before the meeting. Peabody City Council, Councilor Mark J. O'Neill, City Council President.
Thank you. I see the applicant on the Zoom. I just want to clarify, The applicant's name is Victor Vo, but I just want to make sure I'm not mispronouncing names, and the applicant says Victoria. So could you please state your name and address for the record, and also give us a brief explanation of your plans regarding this request? Thank you.
Mr. President? Mr. President?
Councillor Keilty?
Yes, this is my client. So I would like to make the presentation.
Oh, go ahead, Councillor Keilty.
Yes, my name is John Keilty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I'm appearing, I'm virtually appearing this evening on behalf of Victor Vo and his family, who are hopeful of obtaining a special permit to operate a personal service establishment at 2 First Avenue in Unit 122. 2 First Avenue is the convenient strip mall containing a convenient mark right there at 2 First Ave. My clients, the Vos, are going to occupy space number 1, which is closest to Linfield Street. It was previously occupied by a hair salon. They have moved to the rear of the premises downstairs and are still in the area, however, have chosen a different space. The Vos have experience in this field. They've, in the past, have operated as many as 2 other facilities, and they will open this facility gladly as soon as any appeal period were to run, and we're happy to answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Attorney Keilty. Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this application? Please raise your hand in the Zoom application if you'd like to speak on this matter. Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this application? Please raise your hand in the Zoom application if you'd like to speak on this matter. Seeing no one, Councillor Welton.
Thank you, Council President. I had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Vo, the petitioner, and also Mr. Lucy, the property owner of Centennial Crossing, which is the plaza that the proposed nail salon will be in. As Attorney Keilty referenced, as a point of reference for the council, this was a successful hair salon that relocated within Centennial Crossing around the backside of the building. So the use of the building is very similar. It was already beauty services or personal services. The petitioner wishes to have a total of, I believe, 12 stations, which would be 6 manicure, 6 pedicure type stations, with an additional room in the back with 4 separate stations. That build out would be what his goal would be for post-COVID. Currently, that would be operating at exactly 1/2 of that. There is ample parking within Centennial Crossing. He doesn't anticipate that they would ever be full at the same time and would schedule accordingly. Certainly has experience doing this both in Everett and Methuen. Kind of walked through what the business plan was. He's utilized this business plan in the other markets as well. So it looks to me to be a pretty straightforward request. You know, I'll certainly be supporting it, and I had a chance to look through the packet, and you know, I didn't see any objections from any of the other departments. So you know, I understand we have to recess this evening, but do anticipate supporting this when we're able to move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Welton. Would any other councillors like to speak on this matter? Seeing no one, Councillor, Councillor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Attorney Keilty, as Councillor Welton pointed out, there was no objections from any of the departments. I just wanted to make sure your client was aware of the inputs from the fire department and the health department.
Yes, I did forward those to him.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. At this time, Councilor Keilty, you're aware that we are recessing these hearings. I just wanted to make sure
Yes,
that your client, client was aware of this. At this time, Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I move to close the public hearing.
Councilor Welton, no, we
Excuse me.
won't close the public
To
hearing. At this time, I
continue.
just take a motion to recess the hearing until Thursday, March 25th at 7:30.
My apologies. I appreciate the clarification, Council President. Motion to recess the hearing until March 25th. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. You've heard the motion by Councilor Welton. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill. Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you, councilors.
Thank you. We'll see you in a few weeks. Next item is hearing 4B. This public hearing is for an application from Boston Auto Collision Center, 5 Turnpike Road, Ipswich, Mass. The clerk will now please read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 11th, 2021, at 7:30 p.m. and conduct said public hearing in person, City Council only, in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom for all other public participation on the application from Boston Auto Collision Center, 5 Turnpike Road, Ipswich, Mass., for a special permit seeking to operate an auto body shop, repair, and paint shop repair business at 80 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with Sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage or contact the City Clerk's office. Zoom information will not be available until the Friday before the meeting. Peabody City Council, Councilor Mark J. O'Neill, City Council President.
Thank you. I can see on the Zoom application that Boston Auto Collision Center is on the call. Could the applicant please state your name and address for the record and also provide a brief explanation of your plans in this request? Thank you.
Sure. Renato Assis, owner of Boston Auto Collision, 5 Turnpike Road, Ipswich, Mass. We're seeking to get a special permit for 80 Newbury Street, Peabody, Mass. To operate a body shop. We've been in business. It's just another opportunity that, opened up that we're trying to get in, pretty much.
Great, thank you. Are there any members of the general public who'd like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this application? Please raise your hand in the Zoom application if you'd like to speak on this matter. Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this application? Please raise your hand in the Zoom application if you would like to speak on this matter. Seeing no one, Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. Just as to give everyone a point of reference for 80 Newbury Street. 80 Newbury Street is the building at the Jug Handle. Currently occupying the front of that building is the wheel straightening shop. That property was long-time 4-Star Towing. So give you an indication of where the building is. I did have the opportunity to speak to Mr. Assis earlier today. He is taking over space that recently was vacated by another auto body shop. So this has been used as an auto body shop for a number of years. We did discuss the situation as far as he is looking to operate within the same footprint, not making any additions. And I did explain to him that he does have some abutting neighbors of Huntington Woods, so that please abide by and be a good neighbor, and he assured me that he will. They work normal hours, nothing off center in that regard. I also had the opportunity to review with Mr. Assis the concerns, not objections, but basically as a previous applicant, the fire department and the health department had some requests. He's aware of that. He will be forwarding those requests to the appropriate department heads. And I have no objection. I will be supporting this, and I have no questions. So I'll turn it back over to President for the full council.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. Are there any councilors who would like to speak on this matter at this time? Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have one question. On the application on page 5, it goes into parking spaces, and if you look at E, it says 50. If you look at F, it says parking on site will be 20. Looking at the diagram, a few pages later, there's only approximately 15 parking spots. So I guess the only question I really have is parking. I know that area, I know it's kind of tight, and I know it's right at the jug handle. I just want to make sure that there's adequate parking available on that site. So if that, and we're not going to be voting on it this evening, so if that just can be answered between now and our next meeting, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Stress, I saw your hand up. Did you want to ask a question or speak?
Thank you, Council President. It was basically in the same line of Councilor Rossignol. How many cars that would be on the property? Because, like I said, I see, like Councilor Rossignol said, I see 150, one number 50 and 20, and then the diagram. So, you know, obviously, just to be understanding how many vehicles will be on the property. We went, not too long ago, we went through a situation that we weren't sure how many vehicles were allowed on a property. Not the same type of things, but like just be clear how many vehicles.
Thank you, Councilor Stress. Would the applicant like to comment at this time, or would this be something that he certainly would like to clarify for the next hearing?
I'll clarify for the next hearing. I'll make sure we get everything in paper so you guys have the number of parking spots.
Thank you, sir. Any other councilors? Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to make a motion to move to recess this public hearing until March 25th, 2001 at 7:30 p.m.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. You've heard the motion from Councilor Sasslaw. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
I'm sorry, yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Charist,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. We'll see you in a few weeks.
All right, thank you.
Next public hearing is item 4C, which is an application from Elena Limited Liability Company, 35 Boston Street, Middleton, Mass. The clerk will now please read the notice.
Notice is hereby given that the City Council of the City of Peabody, acting as the special permit granting authority, will conduct a public hearing on Thursday evening, March 11th, 2021, at 7:30 p.m. and conduct said public hearing in person, City Council only, in the Frank L. Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass., and remotely via Zoom for all other public participation on the application from Alena LLC, 35 Boston Street, Middleton, Mass., for a special permit seeking to allow an existing previously approved drive-through window to be used for a non-bank tenant at 19-23 Central Street, Peabody, Mass., as filed in accordance with sections 4.2.5, 6.1, and 15.7 of the Peabody zoning ordinance. For remote participation using the Zoom platform, please visit www.peabody-ma.gov under City Calendar on the homepage, or contact the City Clerk's office. Zoom information will not be available until the Friday before the meeting. Peabody City Council, Councilor Mark J. O'Neill, City Council President.
Thank you. I can see the applicant and Attorney Keilty on the Zoom application. Attorney Keilty, did you want to give us an overview or have the applicant speak, please?
Yes, Mr. President, my name is John Keilty. I'm an attorney. I have offices at 40 Lowell Street here in Peabody, Massachusetts, and I appear this evening on behalf of Medhat Mesak, who is generally referred to as Mike Mesak. He is the manager of Alena LLC. He has purchased the property at 19-23 Central Street in Peabody, Massachusetts. It is fully equipped with a drive-through. Used to be a drive-through that had been presented to this council on 2 occasions. I have attached both of those. I'm sorry, I had not attached those, but they were given. Special permit was given in July 9th of 2004. and it was given to Peter Panizelis, the owner of the property at the time. My client, Mike Messack, has purchased this property from Mr. Messack. And the second special permit was to create a double lane for traffic to utilize. At the time, the application did say that the drive-through was going to be used in conjunction with the development of a Heritage Cooperative Bank branch. That did in fact happen. Heritage Cooperative Bank occupied the premises until they were acquired by Salem 5. And then Salem occupied the premises utilizing the drive-through for a period of years until they gave up that space, and they have located over across at number 1 Main Street is where Salem 5 went. Mr. Messack has had the space on the market. He has had several different users approach him. He has not entered into an agreement with any user. I went to the building commissioner, Al Tallarico, provided him with copies of the prior permits, suggested that there was no need for any kind of a change in the special permit status. Commissioner Tallarico felt that the council should be aware that there was no longer going to be a bank utilizing it, in as much as we have not yet arrived at our user at this time. I was trying to put the facility in position to be completely rented in the very near future, so I have applied for this special permit, and we're requesting that the council, in its wisdom, give us a special permit to utilize the drive-throughs that have been there since 2004. There, by the way, there is no parking requirement for BC zoning district. So if that were to be a concern of the council. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Attorney Keilty. Are there any members of the general public who would like to speak either in favor or in opposition of this application? Please raise your hand in the Zoom application if you'd like to speak on this matter. At this time, I can see a hand up. First name is Russ.
Hello.
State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Russell Donovan, 12 Quill Road, South Peabody. Councilors, are you writing a blank check for this proposal? As you are well aware, special permits come before you all the time, and they're specific to the applicant, to the tenant. If you give this special permit approval, it'll be an unconditional approval with no further foresight by the city council to review. I'm sure all of you are familiar with that section of the city of Peabody and the street. We're going through a major redesign of that street. It's right next to an intersection, Dunkin' Donuts. We've seen what COVID-19 did to the Eastern Bank on Foster Street with the traffic backed up for a bank. With a blank check, with no oversight, you don't know what you're going to get there. I suggest that the special permit be applied by the tenant so you can review the business going into that very sensitive area. We're going from 2 lanes to 1 lane at that area, and it's not a safe condition to have an uncontrolled situation by giving a blank check to a developer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donovan. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to speak either in favor or in opposition to this application? Please raise your hand in the Zoom application if you'd like to speak on this matter. I see 2 participants. Their hands are not raised, but there's a Mr. Scott West. Did you want to? I've verified that we have no other attendees other than Mr. Donovan at this time. Councilor Mitsoulas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I have a few questions here, but before I ask any of them, I would like the applicant to know that I went down just before I came to the council meeting, and I kind of looked over what they have for parking spaces and the businesses that are there right now. I was under the impression that the same owner, had these buildings, and the same owner also owns Pete's Place next door. Now, that's not correct, is it, Jack?
Pizza Place?
Yeah.
Yes, Mike, you own that. Do you not?
So,
Yeah.
so the new owner also owns Pete's Place, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how about the Corkscrew Liquors? Does he own that property also?
Yes.
He does.
Michael?
Yes, I do.
Yes, he does. Yes.
Okay, and he also owns the laundromat next door, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
The two buildings.
Okay. Just wanted to straighten that out. I had called the applicant Monday. I wanted to know what he was putting in there. And he told me, and he was not clear on what he wanted to do. He told me he was looking to put a breakfast restaurant in there. And he was looking for the window to use it as a to-go restaurant. And then he wasn't clear on it, and he said that you were his attorney. So I said, why don't you have Jack call me? And you did call me, but you never got back to me, Jack. All right? And one of the things that I told you was I was not too comfortable with the applicant putting a restaurant in there because I was judging by, let's say it had business like Dunkin' Donuts. When I go into Dunkin' Donuts, I can always count 10 or 15 cars waiting in line every morning. Now, if you took that kind of a wait in line, your other businesses there would not be able to survive. They'd have no place to park cars, and it would just be a mess. Right? Now, that's one of the concerns I had, and my other concern was this, and I almost agree with Russ Donovan, who came up and said we'd be given a carte blanche to the permit here. Usually, or normally, or at least in all the years I've been on this council, a company would come in, whether it be a bank or a Dunkin' Donuts, they'd build their building, they'd tell us what they want, and then they would come and they would apply for a window to do drive-through service. And the way I'm reading this and the way I'm looking at this is that we're looking for a tenant for a drive-through window. I mean, you're not telling us what you want to put in there. You know, I want to hear, listen, we have a bank that's going in here and they want to be able to use that window. Or we're putting a Dunkin' Donuts in here and they want to use that window. Or they're putting a restaurant, whatever name. But give us something that we can look at and say, is this going to make sense? Is this going to work at that location? And the way I see it, in that location, it's only got about 10, 12 parking spots. I can't see putting a breakfast restaurant that has to go and and only having 10 parking spaces in the whole lot, and you'll have 15 cars driving through. You're going to make a mess of that corner down there, and I just don't see that working. And until you give me a more definitive plan of what type of business is going in there, I'm having a hard time trying to make a decision on what to do here. I am not going to say I'm opposed to this. We have a couple of weeks to think about it. Maybe there are other councilors here who see it differently than I do, and if they do, I'd like to hear it, and maybe my mind will change. But until then, I'll wait to listen to the council, and I will recess it for 2 weeks, and hopefully we'll have a decision here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Matsoulis. Councilor Gould?
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Matsoulis, I couldn't agree more with you, Jim. I look at the plot plan, and I actually have some questions of Attorney Keilty or Mike. Number 19, the far right side of number 19 is Pizza Place, Jack?
Yes.
And the next building to the right of it is the old package store with a fence. Is that correct?
To the
right of the Pizza Place is a driveway.
Yes.
And the purpose of the driveway, the reason for the drive-through is you'd like to bring traffic in to the right side of Pizza Place, have them loop behind the building, and then come back out on the opposite side of that building?
That's the way it was designed to circulate. That's correct. You're going to be on the right-hand side of our building and then circulating around the back to the window, which is on the left.
Left-hand side, correct. It seems awful tight. I mean, I can't see cars being queued up enough. I can see cars being queued up and nobody being able to move. I don't see how cars are going to be able to drive into the back parking lots if you've got cars that are queued up waiting to go through the drive-through. And like Mr. Donovan said, it's, in my opinion, I agree with him, it's writing a blank check. So I definitely need to see what the intent is with the new tenant and go from there. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Turco?
Thank you, Mr. President. I can't say it enough. I think this is the second time in a row I've agreed with Mr. Donovan. I think he's spot on. I think Councilor Matsoulis and Councilor Gould are spot on. We've seen this over the years. First, let me say I'm not even sure why we're hearing this, because we know that we need an establishment tied to it. And I say that because we had a national chain like Friendly's come before us for a drive-through. I think Council Cheress Ward. They did the right thing. They have an establishment. They then came to us for a drive-through, which is the way it's supposed to be. I think Councilor Sasslaw and Ward 5 has had numerous issues with drive-throughs. I think he approved the Big Pig, which was no issue. I don't mean to say that, but I think the bagel place was an issue for you, and I think that you had to actually go there and speak to them several times to try to curtail the line going out to Route 1. So in this case, I don't see why we're even hearing this. I think Councilor Keilty maybe wanted to throw this against the wall and see if it would stick, but we can't possibly approve a drive-through for an establishment we don't know. And there's another reason I say that is, as Councilor Welton can attest, we've had two different establishments in Ward 1. Honeydew Donuts wanted to open on Lynn Street at two different locations, one toward Browns Pond and one toward County Street. Both would have been a nightmare, and they were stuck on the point that they needed a drive-through. So I don't know if this is that reappearing. I don't know what it is, but there's a number of scenarios that I could see here that wouldn't work out, and I think we would just need more information. So I wouldn't speak in favor without a location tied to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Melville.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Totally agree with everything I've heard thus far. I have a drive-through at the end of my street on Hancock Street, Sherman Street, and Washington that's can be problematic. So it's definitely it's absolutely been proven to be an issue in other areas. Through you, Mr. President, to Attorney Keilty. Attorney Keilty, this is already an established drive-through window. Is the intent here to try to open up to find a wider range of possible tenants for your client? Is that the idea?
The idea is to try to use the window that he bought.
Yeah, I understand that, Attorney Keilty, but he doesn't have a tenant right now to utilize that window,
He does
correct?
not. He's owned the building for over a
Okay.
year. He does
All right.
not have a tenant.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't want to be redundant, but this is just, in my opinion, putting the cart before the horse. It's a little bit premature, and I don't want to regurgitate what other councilors have said. I just want to go on record stating that I just think that this is premature. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Councilor Shrest.
Thank you, Council President. I have one question first for Mr. Keilty and to Mike. What is the square footage of that building, not the building in total, but the spot?
The space that used to be.
Yep.
I don't know. No, I do not.
1,600 square feet.
1,500, Mike? Yes.
The whole space. Is there anything between? Because I can't picture it right now. The spot that you're talking about and the pizza place. Is there anything in between businesses?
No.
Nothing. So, yeah, I would, in all my years, and there's other councilors that have been here much longer than I, that I've ever seen a special permit granting a drive-through to an empty space. I'm sure if we granted this, you would be having many, many people knocking on your door saying you would want to rent that spot, and probably a lot of vendors that the city may not want in that spot for safety reasons. So I would not be able to vote in support of a drive-through window on an empty space, not knowing what's going to be sold, if it's pizza or ice cream or candy bars or what have you. I'm kind of surprised it is in front of us. And as Councilor Turco said, with Friendlies, they had they jumped over hoops and showing us plans and everything else for a drive-through. That area is a tight area. We're going to be doing some construction very soon down on that area in Central Street. So I'd be really curious. It has to be a hard fact who's going to be in there, because I can imagine just opening it up and have a free-for-all who's opening it in there and expanding and everything else. So I got to have a name to it.
Thank you, Councilor Shrest. Councilor Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I can certainly understand the petitioner's desire to want to market the property with a drive-through that's already there. If I were in his shoes, I certainly can understand why that would be advantageous. I think I'd like to take a look, or maybe I'll ask the question if other councilors who were on the council prior to me, when Salem 5 took over that space from Heritage Bank, did they have to apply for a special permit for the use of that drive-through, or was that sort of grandfathered in because it was already established as such with a bank and it was the same use? Does anybody have any?
Salem 5 was a change in name, same use as bankers. Same use as bankers, and it was a change in name. So I do not believe that Salem 5 ever got a permit different from the one that was Heritage Cooperative, especially in as much as Heritage was absorbed by Salem. So essentially it became the same ownership. And Michael, my client, has inherited a bill. Well, he bought it. He bought it without and lost the tenant. So his request is unlike almost anyone else's. I can't recall in the 30-odd years I've been coming before the council, I can't recall ever asking for a drive-through that was in existence. In general, as the entire council has said, usually it's one of the corporations coming forward and adding a franchise, adding a facility in which they plan to have drive-throughs, so they come to the council. Or in the alternative, it's a new tenant in an existing building who wants a drive-through and there isn't one there. So this was a little unusual in the sense that the drive-through existed without the tenant. And so Mike's hope is to, as Councilor Welton has just said, when people say, oh, can I use that drive-through? He doesn't have an answer for that question. That's why we said, let's try to get the drive-through which exists. Let's get it permitted, and then we can answer the question. However, I understand this will be recessed, and we can work on the issues of whether or not we can have a tenant between now and when you want to move forward.
Thank you, Attorney Keilty, for clarifying that question that I had regarding the initial special permit transfer for Salem 5. Again, I don't fault your petitioner for wishing to get this special permit approved as such. I think it obviously would open up his marketing abilities for the particular parcel. I do agree with Mr. Donovan's assertion and a few other councilors at this time. I think the council, or at least myself, would like a little clarity, even if it was the type of business that was going there versus a specific business, just to, as Councilor Matsoulis, pointed out as well, I think as a councilor, hesitant to move forward without knowing more and what that impact to that neighborhood might be. But thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Any other councilors want to have any comments at this time? Councilor Matsoulis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I'm looking for a little advice from the council, or maybe you, Mr. President. I think it's known how this council feels. Now, do we make a motion to recess this, or?
Yes, point of order, Councilor Matsoulis. We would make a motion to recess this public hearing until Thursday, March 25th.
That I was assuming, Mr. Chairman, but I was looking for a little advice from the council. Is this something we could deny this evening and give them more time to work on it? Because unless they have something specific for us to vote on, there's no reason to have this meeting in 2 weeks.
Councilor Matsoulis, could you use your microphone? I'm sorry, I had trouble hearing you. Could you please use your microphone? Is it on? I can't hear.
I can't hear you, Mr. Chairman.
I was just having trouble hearing you. I wasn't sure if your mic was on. I can't see through Councilor Turco. Apologize.
Mr. President.
Yeah, Councilor Melville.
Just through Councilor Matsoulis was asking if it was possible to deny the application this evening instead of recessing. But my understanding is that our policy is that we recess them before voting on them.
Councilor Melville, that's accurate, and we're giving both the general public and the applicants to have 2 public hearings at this time. So I would recommend at this time we just recess the public hearing. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Excuse me, Councilor Matsoulis. Councilor Turco had a comment.
Thank you. I do see Councilor Matsoulis' point, because without this petitioner filing a special permit for a specific business first, it's doubtful that we're going to approve a blanket, even with a potential business in 2 weeks. So my suggestion we do have to go through the process and continue this for 2 weeks, but my suggestion to Councillor Keilty and his client would be to withdraw until they have an application for an actual client. But that's just my advice. Thank you.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. I agree wholeheartedly with Councilor Turco. Let them withdraw without prejudice, and then if they want to take another swing at it, they can later on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. All good points. That's something they can absolutely do, but I would recommend that no matter what, we continue with the public hearing in 2 weeks. What they choose to do at that time, certainly that would be something they need to consider. Councilor Mitsoulas.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to recess till March 26th. So move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mitsoulas. You've heard the motion from Councilor Mitsoulas. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Councilor Welton on the motion.
A point of order, I think the date's March 25th, if I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. My hearing is shot tonight, so I appreciate it. You've heard the motion. Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Charis, McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Thank you. We'll now move on to reports of committees. First one will be Finance Committee Chairman McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Finance Committee met early this evening. Present for the committee were Councilors Gould, Manning Martin, Rossignol, Turco, and myself as chair. Also present were Councilors Welton, Mitsoulas, Charest, Sasslaw, O'Neill, and Melville. We had 2 items on the agenda. The first item was a motion by Councilor Manning Martin, co-motion with Councilor Sasslaw, to request that Director Labassiere of Public Services and Director of Finance, Mr. Gingras, appear before the Finance Committee for an explanation of how Water and Sewer Fund works and how it is affecting water billing. The reason for the request were that some questions had been raised about the water and sewer enterprise, and more specifically about some recent water bills. We got quite a bit of input from Mr. Gingras and Mr. Labassiere, who appeared before the committee, and I'll attempt to summarize that briefly. There were delays in meter reading due to COVID, which resulted in longer billing cycle and consequently higher bills. Billing and meter reading and billing are now back on track for a 90-day cycle, but residents should understand that that cycle can be plus or minus 10 days, so there will be some variability, or there can be some variability in billing due to the length of the billing cycle. So that's something you might, could look at on your water bill. There has been no rate increase since 2019, so any larger bill is not related to rate increases. The summer of 2020 was very dry, which both Mr. Gingras and Mr. Labassiere say contributed significantly to the increased usage by residents. And as evidence of that, MWRA supplied water was up significantly in 2020 versus 2019. That was due to the summer usage during peak season, but also due to the Winona plant being offline for planned upgrades at that facility. The Water and Sewer Enterprise Fund is maintained as a separate from the city budget, and collections are on pace to cover the FY20 budget deficit, as well as to cover the FY21 operating budget for the enterprise. The impact of irrigation systems was discussed, which is significant, and residents are encouraged to have their irrigation system maintained to be sure they are not, that they're operating properly and that they're not wasting water. Residents are also reminded that they can pursue a second water meter for outside water that will not have a sewer component of the billing. Mr. Labossiere indicated that it's very rare that a water meter malfunctions, so that's typically not a contributing factor to a larger bill. The multi-tier water and sewer rate structure was discussed, and residents were reminded that if they are able to conserve water, the potential exists to save significant money. There were no motions on this particular agenda item. We then moved to the second item on the agenda, which was a transfer of funds, cable fund expense. That was presented to the committee by Ms. Gingras. And bear with me for a moment. The following motion was made by Councillor Gould. Move to approve transfer request for receipts, reserve cable fund, an amount of, received, strike that. Move to approve the transfer request receipts reserve cable fund, account number 2700000330017, in an amount of $203,011.65 to cable fund expense, account number 2700000530007, in an amount of $203,011.65. That motion passed committee unanimously, Mr. President. I now bring that for consideration to the full council. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. You've heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould. Councilor Gould? Manning Martin?
Yes.
Sasslaw?
Yes.
Welton?
Yes.
Charis? Yes. McGinn? Mitsoulas?
Yes.
Turco?
Yes.
Rozignol?
Yes.
Melville?
Yes.
O'Neill?
Yes.
Motion carries 10-0.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's the report of committee.
Councilor McGinn, great overview and summary of what we discussed tonight. Now move to the report of committee from the Municipal Safety Committee. Chairman Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. Earlier, we had a meeting of the Municipal Safety Committee. Present was myself and committee members, Councilor Charis, Manning Martin, Turco, Welton. Also attending was Councilor Gould, McGinn, Mitsoulas, Rozignol, Melville, and O'Neill. We had one item on the agenda. That item was regarding a discussion of the possibility of putting some safety measures at the intersection of Bartholomew and Linfield Street. We briefly discussed the design and safety report that was provided to the city back in May of 2020, and Councilor Welton went over some of the history in that report. Also, one of the main reasons for the hearing tonight was there was a serious accident a few months ago, and so Councilor Welton is trying to look at some possible safety measures that would make the area safer. We did have one motion on the floor. The motion made by Councilor Welton was to invite the mayor, also DPW Director Labossiere and Captain Richards from the Police Department to come back before the committee for next scheduled meeting to continue to discuss this regarding questions of costs. Also, if anyone wanted to ask the police regarding their recommendation on a particular intersection, and also Labossiere to be present. And that's the report of the committee.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. We'll now move to motions, orders, and resolutions. Councilor Gould.
Mr. President, wasn't there a motion filed in that sub? Oh, so it's, okay. My apologies. Thank you.
No, thank you, Councilor Turkey. I was asking the same thing, and I should have clarified. Thank you. Apologize.
Thank you,
Councilor Gould.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to make a motion to schedule a municipal safety meeting. Councilor Sasslaw, if you could help on this, to have an update on the recommended truck traffic signage for Gardner Street. This is something that we talked about scheduling, Joel, and if we could get that sooner rather than later, I'd appreciate it.
Apologies, Councilor Gould. I misspoke. We still have a report of committee. We need to do a roll call vote, please. Allison was reminding me of that. I apologize.
Don't worry about it.
So we need to go back to the report of the committee. Any discussion on the report? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw,
Yes?
Welton,
Yes.
Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
This is just to receive the report on committee, correct? Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
And apologies to the entire council, especially Councilor Gould. You're in the middle of making a motion. Councilor Gould.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Sasslaw. Joel, if you could please schedule the municipal safety subcommittee so we can hear the recommended report out from Captain Richards on the new signage for Gardner Street truck traffic. So moved.
I will do that, Councilor Gould, thank you, through city
Thank you.
clerk.
Can we do that sooner? Can we schedule that now, Allison?
We have a few things on the agenda. I don't know how much time
All right.
we're going
It's
to need.
tough to
for them.
juggle. It's tough to juggle. I'm okay. Thank you. And second motion, Mr. President, if I could.
Apology, Councilor Gould, you made your motion to set up to have a hearing regarding the Gardner Street traffic. So you've heard the motion, Councilor Gould, to have that addressed by the municipal safety. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw,
Yes?
Welton,
Yes.
Charis, McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Gould.
And thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Melville. Could we please formalize the recommended vote on the No Child Goes Hungry van donated from the city of Peabody for the March 25th meeting? So moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Gould. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes?
Welton,
Yes.
Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Gould.
No further motions, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Gould. Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under suspension of the rules, motion to receive item 8E from the city planner regarding developing a new city master plan and refer it to finance. So moved.
You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Councilor McGinn.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Manning Martin. Looking for the communication. The request was for the city council to appropriate funds, which we don't have the authority to do. So would you mind adjusting the motion to refer this to the mayor's office? And then that way, I think it would make its way back to us after we get a request from the mayor for an appropriation.
Sure, one less meeting to schedule. Absolutely. Refer it to the mayor. So moved.
You've heard the motion by Councilor Manning Martin. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton, Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to review, to refer to the Committee of the Whole the Charter Review Commission's recommendation. So moved.
You heard the motion by Councilor Manning Martin. Any discussion?
Mr. President?
Councilor Charest. And I'll get you after Councilor Gould.
Thank you, through the president, to Ms. Manning. I'm sorry, did you ask him to bring back, to review the charter, the whole charter? I want to make sure I'm clear, because I might be on the same page.
Yes. Yeah, I'll further explain. We, was it 2018 or so, we put together a charter commission.
Yeah.
And they went through, I'd say, a year's worth of work. It cost the city $35,000 to put the commission together. The vendor that we hired, they completed their contract and their obligation, I think, in September of 2019. And the Charter Commission offered up recommendations for the City Council to review and vote upon. And I think if we vote upon it, it would go out to the voters on a general ballot. I think it needs 2 public hearings, and then it goes out to the voters on a general ballot. And what I hope to do is to, revive the work that they did and review the recommendations that they made and have a discussion on the merits of their proposals, and we can take them all individually, whether we agree with some of the recommendations, or if we don't, we as a council can vote up or vote down each recommendation, or we can disagree with all of it and leave everything as it is, except update the antiquated, outdated language from 1916. I think we can all agree that at least that needs to be done. But we can't do that until we revive it and bring it back up to the Committee of the Whole. We may agree on some of the recommendations. I know that there were recommendations to change the years, terms of school committee, terms of the mayor, and terms of the city council. Maybe the PMLP was in that too, I don't remember. But whether we agree or not is one thing, and we can have that discussion and move forward what we agree upon and not. But at least we can clean up the language and bring it up to a more contemporary standard. So thank you, Mr. Charest, for that question.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, and I believe that we probably got through, I think maybe page 5 or 6 on that, so I
And if I may, there's only 23 pages.
Yeah,
So back in 2011, we did a 150-page zoning change. It took 5 years, but we got it done. And then just this recently, we got a 400-page. Was it 400 pages, Councilor McGinn? The housing production plan was about 400 pages, right?
Somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah. So, and we were able to complete that in, a year, because we put the pedal to the metal in the last several months. But this is only 23 pages. I think we can handle it.
Yeah.
Gentlemen.
Point
I
of
think
order.
we can handle
I'd
it.
ask all councilors to ask their questions through the president so that we can keep order, please. Thank you. Councilor Charest, you still have the floor.
Thank you. Yes, through the chair, President. Yeah, I'm all for bringing this back out to light and going through it. What I may suggest is I like to do a little bit better than a year or 6 months, is that to be able to schedule this maybe on an off night so we can review it and go through it, because I do know we were kind of going back a couple pages and going forward again, then go back a couple pages. So my suggestion, this is only a suggestion to the chair, is that we do put it on a separate night of a city council meeting, so we can go through this and make these changes that we need to make. So this is my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. On the motion, Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Council Trust beat me to the punch. I was going to suggest the same thing because I think this could be a lengthy conversation, whatever we decide to do, but I think it could last, several hours at that. So I wouldn't mind if Councilor Manning has no objection to scheduling it on an off night. Thank you.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Trickel. Councilor Manning Martin on the motion.
Committee of the whole, it's completely up to the city council president, so whatever you decide is fine with me.
We still have a motion on the floor whether to actually bring it out and discuss it again, but my intention would that we probably would look at, we do not have that committee did not meet in 2020. There's currently not a charter committee set up, so it would have to be the committee of the whole at this point in time, or probably legal affairs. I have to look at that, but either way, we have a motion on the floor about the motion to, I guess, could you please restate it just so I can make sure everyone can understand? Thank you.
Sure, we received it all and discussed it all, I think, as a full committee, so my motion would not be to refer it to legal affairs. It would be, my motion is to refer to the committee of the whole for the city council president to schedule and administer as he sees fit. Thank you.
For that clarification, you've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin,
Yes.
Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Manning Martin.
No further motions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to, on the suspension rules, motion to receive item 8B and set up a special permit hearing.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton, Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rozignol,
Yes.
Melville, O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you. And regarding that special permit hearing, and not that anyone in this room I don't think would do it, but I do encourage you to go visit the site. There's new traffic patterns down there. This is the In the Game Plaza that occurred late last year. This is a drive-through, so I just would ask everybody to go down there, take a look around, and also they should be providing some markings. I had questions about where the curb cuts, things of that nature, where the drive-thru is going to go. I believe that the owner, Al Yubba, is going to be putting some spray paint of how this will look so that it'll make it easier for everyone to make an assessment, and I will let everyone judge it on its own. But Al Yubba's number is in here, and if you want to go give him a call before you head down to make sure that that has been done. I do not believe it has been done yet, but I did speak to him before tonight's meeting and asked him to. That was a commitment he made to me, and I would want to share that with the other councilors. Thank you. I made a motion probably about a month ago under the a motion regarding debris that is being, disposed of improperly. I made a motion to bring it to the Municipal Safety Committee, and I just want to add to that motion. I think I left a few things out that night. And my motion is to invite DPW Director LaBossiere and Building Commissioner Al Talarico to participate in the discussion of residents regarding improper disposal of landscaping debris and snow. And I'm looking for guidance and suggestions to stop this inappropriate behavior. So move. And before we vote on it, this is a tough one. I think we all face it. We're going to be coming up to springtime, and it's very difficult when a resident or someone calls you and there's not a good neighbor. And I don't know. I'd like to hear about from Commissioner Talarico. Do we use the enforcement officer? I've had some success with that when I've had some debris issues. I don't think our role is to be a police officer and knock on the doors and try and mitigate neighborly disputes, but I do feel that it's a serious enough issue that's been going on in my ward, and I think others have expressed that. So I do want to ask Director LaBossiere and Talarico, hopefully they can maybe look into what maybe other communities and cities do and what their recommendations are to to rectify this situation. So that's my motion. So move.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Councilor Rossignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Sasslaw, just for clarification, are you talking about having them come to the subcommittee on safety?
That would be yes, that would be come to the subcommittee meeting on municipal safety. I made the previous motion, but I did not invite them, and I think it's important that they be here so that, we can, from their experience and what their recommendations are, maybe they've had other jobs, other communities, to see what they suggest.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor Rossignol. Any other discussion? Councilor Turco.
Councilor Sasso, if you don't mind, I just want to go back to your original motion to receive for the special permit. On that special permit, is the restaurant by right, and we're voting on the drive-through, or are we voting on the drive-through and the restaurant next week? Just so when I read through this, I understand what I'm trying to decide on for 535 Lowell Street. So the restaurant's mentioned in there, but then the drive-through, and I just wasn't sure if the restaurant is requiring a special permit, and then the drive-through separately, or if that's by right for that plaza.
That's an excellent question.
Councilors, we actually have a motion on the floor right now, so...
My apologies. I thought Councilor Sasslaw was just in discussion and did not file a motion. I'll ask that question to you after, Councilor Sasslaw.
Any further discussion on Councilor Saslaw's motion regarding the Municipal Safety Committee and having Director Lavoisier and Building Commissioner Tallarico appear? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin. Yes. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rossignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill. Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Sasslaw.
Thank you, Council President. Through you to Councilor Turco. So the application is for special permit from a drive-through. I would be lying if I told you I knew the answer to that this evening. I don't. If there's anyone who would like to add in, I'd have to look at the zoning and confirm that. I do see there's nothing. It's strictly based upon the drive-through. I will certainly follow up with the zoning, and if that's an issue, I will bring it out to petitioner and tell them, but I don't know off the top of my head, and I didn't want to guess on that, because I can't remember. Well, in the game is a restaurant, but it did need a special permit. It was everything, but as the restaurant, I think it's a good question. I don't know. The drive-through was definitely there, but I don't know the answer to that right now.
Through you, Mr. President, thank you very much. I didn't mean to put you on the spot with it. I didn't know what I was kind of reading over for the next 2 weeks, and I didn't want to come in ready to discuss a drive-through when I was actually discussing the restaurant, so wasn't sure, but thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Councilor Sasslaw.
Yes, thank you. Following on spring cleanup, I just wanted to share, I had a conversation today with Park Director Jen Davis, and I just want to let the public, everyone was out today, it was a great day, 70 degrees, and what happens is we all get the phone calls about the bike pass, the walking pass. We have many of them in Peabody, and just wanted to point out to the residents that regarding trash, really, you're responsible for your own trash. If there are not barrels there, you should take it with you. That be both human or animal trash. But you will see the barrels will be put out, and people, if they want to understand why the barrels put where they are, because they have to put the barrels so that the trucks can get in there and empty the trash. And many people have stated, why aren't barrels in certain places? But that's the reason why they are. And she also informed me that starting 4/1, the contractor that has had the contract for the last 6 years will start putting out the barrels and taking care of cleaning up and sprucing up the areas. But as I said, it was a nice day today, and I know a lot of residents ask about that, so I figured I would share that with everyone today. Lastly, I'd like to discuss, as we all found out, I believe it was yesterday, there was a submission of another proposal, project eligibility letter, to the state, Mass Housing, and that was for 128 Newberry Street. That 128 Newberry Street, for those of you who don't know, That's referred to sometimes as the Marchese property, but that is the property behind the Honeydew Donuts. And in the interest of full transparency, you know, I think social media is great, but I also think it's important to let people know what and what has not happened. We had a meeting, when I say we, myself, the mayor, and Community Development Director Kurt Bellavance, back in February of 2020, right before pre-pandemic. So we certainly were aware that there was a interest in doing this. And there were a few more conversations. They're all documented. I myself had a neighborhood meeting on October 20th, 2020. This was at the height of COVID. We had a neighborhood meeting in the interest of making sure that everyone who was a direct abutter or a neighbor, maybe 1 or 2 streets over, I invited the neighbors to that for the developer, goes by the name of Trammell Crow, to have a meeting. We discussed the proposal. We vetted out various things. They were open to communication. There was many questions, as there obviously would be. One of the things that had happened is the initial project was 300 units. They have now submitted a proposal for 220 apartments. You know, I sit here before you tonight, you know, Ward 5 has certainly carried the water on 40Bs. Friendly, unfriendly, you know, I've worked with the mayor's office in conjunction on the Montecero property, which is behind Sonic, which has a shovel in the dirt. Farm Ave looks like it's going to be approved on March 22nd, which hopefully will put us above the 10% threshold. And I think we would all agree this threat of 40B is certainly not fun. I think we would all agree with that. And we all want to get over the threshold. And then looming beyond is the fact that with the new census, as we all know, because we did the housing production plan, there's going to be a new number. And we'll see what that number is. But what I'd like to state is that this is a very emotional issue. And I'll go back and just let you know, I just did this before the meeting tonight. Back in July 12, 2008, that's approximately 13 years ago. Here's the headline in the Salem Evening News. Developer pushes sports complex, but neighbors don't play. And that was the Brunswick Bowling Alley. I'll be very frank with you. I was hoping that was built. I had young children at the time. Would have been a great way to spend a Saturday, but that didn't happen. In addition, there was a site that was permitted for 12 to 13 houses. We thought that's what was going to happen. The original developer, Richard Marchese, went in well before my time. I came on this council in 2014. Went in, clear-cut the property. Travesty. If I was those neighbors, they were devastated, I'm sure. And there were some other promises made with some properties there as far as entrances, exits. Didn't happen before my time. But to talk about an emotional issue, I get it. This is people's single biggest investment. This is sometimes how they're going to retire, whatever it may be. That being said, the 12 houses, I'm going to use a line that a former basketball coach said. Bird, McHale, and Patino is not coming through that door. I wish the 12 houses were there. I had someone bring that up to me in a previous election. I don't control that. It's private property. That being said, I feel that my role is a conduit between the neighbors and the developer to try and at least have communication, to have that spirit of friendly 40B. I also understand that certain people are adamantly against it. I understand that. But I caution my fellow councilors. There are other people who are abutting neighbors who had their backyards, pools filled in time after time, who had their property totally injured, property injured. And some of those neighbors, guess what? They want to see something. Is 220 the right thing? I'm not here to make that decision. I haven't made that decision. But as we go down this process, I ask that people be respectful of people who are against it or in favor of it. Because as I said, 2008, this has been going on for close to 13 years. The mayor has said publicly, this is one of his top 3, issues. I inherited this. This has been my issue. I've been trying to deal with this, and I'm trying to get this resolved. But in the interest of transparency, when we left that meeting on October 20th, I said to the neighbors who showed up that night, who took time out of their day, I said, we'll have a second meeting. This is not the end, this is the beginning. And when we got the letter yesterday, the first thing everyone saw, because the letter made it onto social media, which was great, no issues, I think it's great, but it said the comment period was Wednesday, April 7th, 30 days. Well, the first thing I did is I called the community development, Kurt Bellavance, I reached out to him, and I said, if I remember correctly, we're in a COVID environment, April 7th seems awful aggressive. I had set up a potential meeting the second week of April, and Kurt said, no, we are going to apply for 30-day extension, and it shouldn't be a problem. And true to his word, 24 hours later, we all got a letter saying that we have 30 days. So we have till May 7th. I'll be having another neighborhood meeting. I'm still under the COVID-19 protocol. I've reached out to the establishment on Route 1. I'm trying to figure out how many people we can do this safely in the proper environment. And obviously, I feel, I understand that this project can affect this neighborhood, the entire city. All three of the 40Bs in front of us affect the entire city. Whether it be King Street, whether it be Oak Street, whether it be Farm Ave. And it's a lot easier when it's friendly. When it's not, we roll up our sleeves and we do what we have to do. But, I did not know they were going to file this letter. That's their right. I wasn't too happy that I wasn't given the call. That's fine, I get it. But the lines of communication are still extremely wide open. I have serious concerns with Route 1, the egress and access. I go to, I've been in COVID, I've been working home since March 16th, but before March 16th of last year, I drove up Route 1, Dunkin' Donuts every day. Sometimes it was very difficult to get out. I have concerns with Winona Street off of Route 1. That's been a concern before this development. That's very dangerous coming out of the Gulf gas station. So, as I said, I just ask that people be respectful. There are neighbors who are in favor of it, neighbors who aren't, but everyone should have their fair opportunity to voice why they feel what they feel. And as I said, I strongly recommend that the neighbors, the people who are concerned, whether you live in a street over, in the ward, in the city, I strongly encourage everyone to tune into the ZBA hearing on March 20, I believe it's 22nd. The ZBA that evening is hearing 3 40Bs. I'm not going to sit here and talk about friendly and unfriendly 40B. We all know. I will take that time to spend with the neighbors who don't understand it and do that. But I do feel to the neighbors who want to learn a little bit about the 40B process, tune in that night. Listen to those 3 hearings. Educate yourself. Find out what can be done, what can't be done. There are risks, there are not risks. And the more they're educated, and that's upon me and upon city officials, the better it'll be for everybody to understand going forward. But, as I said, social media is a great tool, but it also can fuel the flames. And also, as I said, people have to be respectful of other people. And it's been a mess up there. It really has. And I think, quite frankly, one family who got their pool flooded, mud, an in-ground pool, 2, 3 times. I think the patriarch and the matriarch of that family, they passed. The kids are still there. They don't want to talk to anybody. But, I have an obligation, and we as a city have an obligation. And so I want the neighbors to know that's been transparent. It will continue to be transparent. I'm open to take phone calls. We're going to continue the process. I will continue to report out to my fellow councilors. But I thought it was important, before the cat gets out of the bag. It's out of the bag, I get it. But I think it was important to state what's going on. And, I learned a lot from you, Councilman Sulis. You talked a little bit about something in your ward, and sometimes we got to get it out there. We got to throw it out there just to let people know that, I know my ward, and I understand. And I have to respect people's opinions. I have to just respect people's opinions and listen, and then learn, and try and come to some agreement. And if we can't come to agreement, that's okay. But I have certainly not come down on any way of a decision. I'm still in the fact-finding stages, and it's all about quality of life. But as I said, 2008, that's when this debacle has been going on since. And I hope that while I'm in office, however long it may be, I hope that it can get resolved and rectified and move forward. And if we can make everybody happy, that's great. And if we can't, I understand that. We all understand that. We make votes every day. Some people agree, some people don't. But I certainly am open to participation, communication, and exchange of ideas. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Sasslaw. Any further motions, orders, or resolutions? Council Welton.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions, orders, or resolutions this evening.
Thank you, Councilor Welton. Councilor Charest.
Yes, thank you, Council President. I like for an update on where we stand with maybe a year ago, we were talking about the trash barrels and ordinance and with recycling. You know, last week we had quite a big windstorm, and, you know, driving through Peabody, going through Salem and Beverly on the way to work at 4:30 in the morning, I have a clear view and see the difference some of the roads look with some bins and some other ones who have, you know, just cardboard boxes stuck in a cardboard box that's flying around the streets and things, and trash being everywhere. So I would like to ask for a update from the mayor's office or the Board of Health office. And I know the Board of Health has been, you know, crazy busy, but just somewhere where we stand on that. So move.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill. Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Charest.
Thank you, and just as a point of information for, and I'll call this with Council Mitsoulas because he's right across the street from this site, that by Chandler's, there's a new ice cream store that will be occupying that property. It is by right, that's why it's not in front of us. They know that what they can and cannot do. I've tried to set up a meeting with the owner, but he is in the process of doing something right now, so not going to be able to meet for another week or so. But when that happens, I think it would probably be for the next meeting. I will report out to that. But it is an established ice cream business outside of the city, just looking for a second location. I did check on on that business, and it has some great reviews. People love it, so I'm sure it'll do very well here in Peabody. With that just being said, the other thing is I like the condolences going out to the Walsh family. Peabody ourselves as a community lost a Peabody worker with that family. So I would just like to recognizing and a letter from this council to the Walsh family for condolences from the city council. So move. And I like that in a motion.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Charest.
One other motion, I know we all got a call from the mayor's, I believe we all got a call from the mayor's office on the plan going forward for the streets to be repaved and things from the ripping up the roads from the water lines and things like that. And just ask that we can be, if the ward councilors, especially if there's going to be significant closures or traffic delays in their particular area at that time, if we're notified as best as possible. I know sometimes it's difficult because of usually it's a contractor doing it, and they kind of get the rule of the road when they can get in and get out. So just ask the mayor's office and the public services if they can keep us pretty much updated, if it's daily or at least weekly, on where that project is going to be. I know it's a lot of work, and I appreciate it. I know a lot of shocks and front-end alignments it's going to appreciate it too once that other project is done. Thank you. And that also has a motion, so move.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Councilor Sasslaw.
I totally agree with the discussion, Councilor, and this goes right down Lowell Street. I guess my question, the motion, are you, and I would support this, are you asking, I don't know if it's DPS, I don't know if it's a contractor, are you asking someone to let us know? Because I agree with that, I just don't know who you're expecting that to come from. Your request is to kind of know in advance if it's a paving, a major road, something, that's, I thought, what I heard, and so who would, notify, because you're asking to be notified in advance, aren't you, of major road repairs and stuff, repaving, excuse me?
Through the chair, yeah, I would certainly want it prior. I mean, afterwards, we can be seeing it ourselves, but certainly prior as much as possible. So we, when we get calls of, large vehicles, trucks, equipment parked on the side of roads or things of that nature, or if it's going to be a closure of that road, so people who may have, now some cases is going to be the whole Lowell Street. I understand that might be difficult to say what from 205 Lowell Street to 405 it might be a stretch to do, but if it's on Summit Street, County Street, things like that, when the road's going to be closed, that if people are having deliveries of some sorts, may be able to let their supplier know that that road is going to be closed. They may not want to come that day or guess or anything else like that. As much as information as possible. I don't think, again, I'm leaving it up to what I would imagine the DPW director, Bob, is always great in letting me know what's going on, so I don't think it's a problem. And then the mayor's office too. I'm sure if it doesn't have to come directly from the mayor, but maybe the chief of staff can give us some information up front. I don't think I'm not looking for it to be too intense, just some heads up.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. Councilor Sassler, do you have another comment?
Yes, through you to Councilor Charest. Councilor Charest, would you be amenable to also at least sending the motion to Captain Richards, because obviously he knows, because they have to hire details for the police officers. So I think we're covering ourselves, and hopefully one of the three, if not all three, will keep us informed. But I know that they're involved in knowing what road closures happen because of the details. So I'm just asking if you would be amenable to also having that motion sent to Captain Richards, just so he knows we're trying to stay ahead of the curve.
I would be as open to whoever has any information to let the councilors, not just the ward councilors, all the councilors know what we'll be expecting. So I don't, again, it's whoever has the information. That's why I'm not trying to name certain people. Whoever has the information, if they can direct it to the councils, and if they could send it, might be easier to send it to Allison, and Allison can send it all out to us, whatever. I just like some information.
Thank you, Councilor Charest. I believe Councilor Turco had a comment or discussion.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Through you to Councilor Charest. I love the motion. Truth be told, we had a number of issues at County and Summit. I think Councilor McGinn and Councilor Walton can attest. When County and Summit and what I forget the name. County, Summit, and Linfield Street were being ripped up. We never knew when there were closures, when there weren't, and it was absolutely a nightmare. And ultimately, the buck stops at the police department. I talked to Bob LaBosse here a dozen times about it. He said he never orders a road closure. He prefers to keep one side of the road open at a time, but the police department makes that call, and they can sometimes do it day of. So I think the discussion needs to take place with Captain Richards. And, ultimately, I think with some of the paving taking place on County, Linfield, Summit, Lowell Street, we need to discuss, regardless of cost, doing some overnight paving rather than doing this in the daytime. I think the city will be a nightmare over the summer. A lot of people can't wait to get out of the house, and when everybody's vaccinated, and I think we're looking at a heavy traffic year anyway. And to block up some of our major roadways, I really think we need to look at nighttime paving, which we don't typically do in the city. But thank you for the motion, and that's all.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Just for, point of good order, I did hear the mayor's, for those maybe who are watching, or maybe some people didn't get the message, it was certainly the mayor's committed to letting neighbors know what streets would be affected by that, and also certainly trying to do nighttime paving when possible and feasible. But I just want to point that out. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Shrestha, in your motion, could I just clarify, I want to make sure that we had the specific department, the person or individual department that was going to be responsible for communicating. Just make sure we're clear so that we're not, tackling different people. So could you just clarify the motion for us, please?
I would ask the information that is gathered through the police, DPW, the mayor's office, to be forwarded to the council on any road closures or interruptions in traffic. People's nighttime, I think it's pretty known. I mean, if I have to spell it out, give me a minute, I'll write it all down.
Thank you, Councilor Shrestha. On the motion, Councilor Sasslaw.
And I think we'd all agree, I think we already have the model. The model is when DPS tells us when the plow trucks go out. They just text us and we know. So I would kind of follow that model. It's just a matter of who's going to send the text out. But that, I think we all agree, works tremendously. So I think it's not I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel. I agree with Councilor Chires. We got to just figure out who that person is. But if, we give them all our phone numbers and they say, County Street from 275 County to 1 County is going to be paved. Even the morning of, as you said, Councilor Turco, sometimes I don't know, certainly can get out in a text. So, and it's, we want to give people as much notice as possible, but definitely using technology to assist us. We do it already. So I thought that's worked out very well. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Councilor Sasslaw. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton,
Yes.
Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Shrestha? Thank you, Councilor Shrestha. Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. On suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8C and set up a public hearing. So moved.
You've heard the motion from Councilor McGinn. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw,
Yes.
Welton, Charis,
Yes.
McGinn,
Yes.
Mitsoulas,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Rossignol,
Yes.
Melville,
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor McGinn?
Thank you, Mr. President. No further motions.
Thank you, Councilor McGinn. Councilor Mitsoulas?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have one motion, and that's to request of Public Services to remove a handicap parking sign opposite number 65 Endicott Street. The party who lived there no longer lives there. They went to Dobbs Road, and a handicap sign has already been installed at Dobbs Road, and I'm requesting to have the sign removed to open up some parking space for the residents there. So moved, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mitsoulas. The city clerk is advising that we should probably make the motion to rescind the original request for the handicap sign in the original location.
Mr.
The original ordinance.
Mr. Chairman, I had made that motion once before. I'm making it again. Maybe I didn't make the right motion, and that's probably why it didn't happen. So I will make a motion to rescind that handicap parking
Apologies,
spot.
Councilor Mitsoulas. The city clerk was just mentioning that there's an ordinance once we have an ordinance when we put in the handicap parking. So she's saying we should rescind that ordinance is what I'm saying. But I understand what you're saying. Any further discussion on you've heard the motion from Councilor Mitsoulas. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw, Welton, Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Mitsoulas.
No further motions, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Mitsoulas. Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. Under suspension of the rules on behalf of you, I would like to receive item 8A and refer to the Committee of the Whole meeting on aggregate industries.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
And
Councilor
for those of
Turco.
you that don't have a copy of that document, the clerk has thumb drives available. And for those, I believe, Allison, if they want a printed copy of the 17,000 pages, you'll make that for them. There it is. Councilor Sasslaw has the written copy. Mr. President, under suspension of the rules, move to receive item 8D on behalf of you, President Mark O'Neill, and set up a committee of the whole to discuss the reopening of City Hall and appropriate procedures to do so. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. You've heard the motion by Councilor Turco. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould.
Yes.
Manning Martin. Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton.
Yes.
Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Turco.
Thank you, Mr. President. The last thing I just want to mention, a brief summary on the Brown School playground for those of you that are paying attention or may not know. We started a project to build a brand-new, all-inclusive, handicapped-accessible Brown School playground well over 3 years ago. Half the funding came from CPC, the other half was raised by parents from the Brown School as well as community members. It was a substantial amount of money. The playground was installed about a year ago, and through some fall testing, fortunately done by Jen Davis from Parks, it came to our attention that some of the areas of the park did not properly protect kids if they fell and hit their heads. And through further review and investigation into it, we discovered that the contractor actually used two different types of padding underneath the turf in the playground, and one of the pieces of padding may not be suitable for this type of playground, and it also may not be ADA compliant. So we've had some issues with trying to get contractors to come back and repair, but ultimately the turf manufacturer, which is Field Turf Industries, reached out to us and had offered to come out and help and try to correct any of the issues so that we could get this done. But then we ran into COVID in wintertime, but the project should be back on track within the next week or so. Field Turf is going to send some representatives out to see what needs to be repaired, and we could be anywhere from 6 to 8 weeks away from finishing the project. And that's just for informational purposes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Turco. Appreciate that update on that important project. Councilor Rozignol.
Thank you, Mr. President. No motions, orders, or resolutions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Rozignol. Councilor Melville.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, as was referenced earlier, Allison will set up a legal affairs subcommittee meeting and the next possible meeting so that we can handle the donation of that van. And then, again, thankful to City Solicitor Don Kahn for coming down and speaking to us regarding an update. And I had mentioned making a motion to legal affairs. So I'd like to make a motion to request the City Solicitor, Community Development, and the Building Inspector identify language in our zoning ordinance and special permitting process that could be updated in response to the amendments to 40A Also include recommendations to update any applicable applications that might be impacted by new language. So moved.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin, Sasslaw.
Yes.
Welton. Charis.
Yes.
McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville.
Yes.
O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
Councilor Melville.
No further motions this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Melville. I have no motions, orders, or resolutions this evening. I'll now entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilor Manning Martin. You've heard the motion. Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Councilors Gould,
Yes.
Manning Martin.
Yes.
Sasslaw. Welton.
Yes.
Charis. McGinn.
Yes.
Mitsoulas.
Yes.
Turco.
Yes.
Rozignol.
Yes.
Melville. O'Neill.
Yes.
Motion carries 11-0.
This meeting is adjourned.